All right, back again. Today we're going to be identifying the parts of the simple interest formula. So you're only identifying the parts. This should be fairly simple. Well, first off, we want to know a little bit about this whole simple interest. Now, if you borrow money from a bank, you pay interest to the bank for the use of their money. They don't just give you money for free. You have to pay an extra amount back. If you deposit money in the bank, so if you put it into a savings account, the bank pays you interest for the use of your money because you're putting your money in the bank, so your money gets circulated from there. Now, interest is a fee paid for the use of money. So that's going to be an extra or an additional amount. Now, to find simple interest, which is represented by the variable I, you're going to use this formula, I equals PRT. It's not a formula you have to memorize. It will be on your formula chart. So you just look over there and find the simple interest, and it would say I equals PRT. Now, what in the world do those variables represent? We first have the I, and the I is the amount of interest paid or earned. Then you have the capital P, which is your principal, not principal Schweers. It's the amount of money borrowed or invested. So that's the money you borrow from the bank or the money you're putting into your account. Then you have the little r, which is the rate of interest. That comes in the form of a percent, and that's what's getting charged or earned, but that must be changed to a decimal form. So that must be changed to a decimal form. That's really important. Next, we have the T, which is your time in years. It has to be in years that the money is borrowed or invested. It's also called loan term. Now, it has to be in years, so if there's problems that give it to you in months, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to divide by 12 because there's 12 months in 1 year. Now make sure you're jotting down some of these notes for yourself so when you're doing the assignment, you have that to refer to. Now, right here, if you're given the number of months, you're going to divide by 12. All right, so directions say fill in the values for each variable of the formula. Matthew borrows $10,000 for 5 years at a yearly interest rate of 4.5%. How much total interest will he pay? Okay, so out of all these variables, in my opinion, the easiest ones to start off with would be the R and the T, because I know the R, if I look above, is the percent, and when I look in the problem, I'm like, oh, there's my percent, 4.5%. So I'll take that number and I'm going to put 4.5%, but as it says above, I need to change it to a decimal, so move it 2 places to the left, and it's going to become 0.045. So that's the number I'm going to want to use when I do my calculations. Then I know that T is my time, so when I look in the problem, I see that there's years, 5 years. So let me say 5, and I'm going to put the label of years, so that way if I have one that gives it to me in months, I will hopefully remember I need to divide it by 12 before I can use that number in my calculations. So that number is ready to go. Now the last number that there is the $10,000 that's being borrowed. Now would that be the I or the P? Well, if it's the money that's being borrowed, when I look up here in my little notes, I see borrowed, and that's telling me that's my principal. Now that leaves me with the I. Well, if I read the question, it says how much total interest will he pay? So that's going to be what we're finding, how much total interest. That's going to be my missing. Now, I'm not actually going to calculate anything today. I'm finished with that problem. I just needed to pick it apart and identify what goes where. Moving on to number 2, Jessica deposited $2,600 in an account that has a 4% yearly interest rate. If she leaves her money in the bank for 18 months, how much interest did she earn? So again, if I go through and find what values I am given, and I'm going to fill those in. So like I mentioned before, possibly get the R and the T first. So my R is my percent, and looking through, there's my percent. It's going to be 4%. So I'll put 4% over here by the R. But before I move on, since I know the percent has to be a decimal, take my decimal, move it 2 places to the left. That's going to make this percent now 0.04. That's going to be used. Then I'll find my T. Well, my T is my time. That's money. I already used that percent. Time here says 18 months. So I'm going to write that down. And remember, just like I did before, I'm going to put my label with it. So that says 18 months. But if I remember from the top, for my time, it says time has to be in years. And if it's given in months, I need to divide by 12. So that's what I'm going to do over here. I'm going to take the 18 months, divide it by 12. And when I do that, I end up with 1.5 years. So that's going to be the value I'll use. Last two, the I and the P, deposited. So if we deposited the 2,600, and we know that it says up above by the P, that's the invested money. That's another word for deposit when you put it in. That's going to be my P. So here, 2,600. And then my question, she's going to leave, how much is the interest? So again, that's going to be the missing information. Since all I had to do was fill in the values for each variable of the formula, and it looks like I did, I am ready to move on to the next question. This one says, Andres borrowed $45,000 from the bank for 3 years that has a 6.25% yearly interest rate. How much interest will he pay? So starting with my R, my percent, I see here. So let me write that down. Move my decimal 2 places to the left, turning that into 0.0625. Don't lose any of your digits. Then my T, my time, I see 3 years. Perfect. I don't have to change that. So 3 years. And then I have borrowed 45,000. So the money you borrow or invest is your principal. So that's going to be 45,000. And the question, how much interest? So how much interest will he pay? That's going to be the missing, and we leave that alone. So we are done filling in the values for the variables. Now I wish you luck on the assignment. Again, let me know if you have any questions.